So I think this is true, and I tweeted it out. Ryan Day, by beating Texas 28-14 in the Cotton Bowl to move on to the national championship game, I think he joins a list that includes Dabo Swinney and Kirby Smart right now of active head coaches who have coached in multiple national championship games. That's the list. It's a pretty crazy list. While Marcus Freeman, he's getting Notre Dame to the national championship game for the first time in like a decade. Last time they got in, it was still the BCS era. Former Buckeye facing his former team. Ryan Day trying to win his first national championship and his second crack at a national championship game. I don't even know what the line is right now as we're standing here. Okay, it's a 10-point for Ohio State, I'm assuming. Vibes, it's like, what's your initial impression, Stefan, as we head into Atlanta?
Well, I think the big thing is right now is the Texas's defense do anything that Notre Dame can take. We talked about that in an earlier video, just the way they defended Jeremiah. Is that something that Notre Dame can do and succeed at? We all said no. So, how does Notre Dame defend this team? Because they do have a good defense. They have a beat-up defense. I almost look at this Texas game, and I think to myself, a big reason the line is as big as it is, I think you're asking a team to put together 4 straight wins against top 12 opponents. It's not an easy task. Is this basically everyone just saying, at some point Ohio State wasn't going to be perfect. At some point they were going to get unsportsmanlike penalties and holding penalties and false starts. Like, one of those games is going to happen along the way. Can they win that game? Yes, they can. They just did that. So are we just going back to reality on January 20th and Ohio State just comes out looking like the Ohio State that played against Tennessee and Oregon? Was this kind of just the get over the hump game? Like, let's get to the national championship and we'll clean everything up and everything will be fine? I think that's where I lean right now. I think the vibes are good for Ohio State. At some point you were going to be on the ropes, and you were on the ropes in this game. And now you can kind of move on and say, all right, one more game. There's just one more game left. Everything on the line. You can play loose. You can play like you did against Oregon and Tennessee, and I think have success. I'm looking at this game saying I think Ohio State got over the hump, got over that ugly game, and now they're cruising. I think this team is going to win a national championship.
Andrew, what's your vibes? Like, I don't know. We're about 10 days out from being in Atlanta.
Well, I'm just stunned. I don't know. Did you guys know that Marcus Freeman played at Ohio State?
I've never heard that before in my life.
Did you know that Jim Tressel was and is his mentor? I'm learning all of this information for the first time, and I can't wait to talk about it for the next 10 days.
About a month and a half ago, there was also people saying that he was already Ohio State's head coach in waiting, so here we are.
One of his best friends is the linebackers coach at Ohio State right now, too, just so you know.
That is, crazy, man. This is all information I'm learning for the first time. I think tonight, like Stefan said, he kind of took the words out of my mouth. I think tonight was Ohio State's moment of, okay, we accomplished one of our goals. We accomplished a beast that we had yet to conquer. I looked at them during the game, late third quarter-ish, and I went, guys, this is kind of the game that Ryan Day and Ohio State have typically lost in the last couple of years. One of the other writers texted me and said maybe this feels a little bit like Georgia in 2022, but defense. I don't think he's completely off base there, and I think tonight was that moment where I said this before the game. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I said the line between perfection and great is very, very small and is very, very thin. Ohio State didn't even play great tonight. I don't think they played all that well, and they beat Texas by 14 points. I think what the last 24 hours have told me is this is sort of near as poor as Ohio State can play, or at least as sloppy as Ohio State can play. And they still, I thought, moved the ball pretty well. At halftime, we were like, man, the offense can't get out of their own way. And we were sitting in the media, lunchroom, and we look up and we see 8 yards a carry or 8 yards a play. And we went, they're moving the ball. They're just getting in their own way. And I think in the second half, Texas did some things. But, man, I watched that Notre Dame-Penn State game. I watched tonight. I think Notre Dame's in some serious trouble. I think the way that they play defense is a lot of man. Ohio State, I think, can cook man coverage. Notre Dame's really beat up on both lines of scrimmage. I think Ohio, like Penn State ran the ball really effectively. I think Ohio State's vibes right now should be, let's go into this game and make this our TCU. We thought we had a chance a couple of years ago against Georgia. Let's beat them 65-7. I don't think 65-7 is going to happen, but Notre Dame kind of has that, we're winning games, by a field goal here, and we're winning games by, last second possession here where we're drowning out the clock. Like, Notre Dame feels like they've kind of been hanging on for a little bit. And look, Marcus Freeman's done a great job. They're playing Tressel ball. Ohio State fans should be ready for that. They win on defense, they win on coaching, they win on special teams. So Notre Dame is going to present you some challenges. But Ohio State, I just think, is better across the board, and I think they probably know that. And I think looking at tonight, if you go, man, is this kind of it? Is this the worst that Ohio State might play in this playoff? I cannot imagine a Notre Dame team coming out there and hanging with an Ohio State team that cleans up on the errors that it committed tonight.
So I wrote this at the buzzer. I don't think Ohio State played that poorly. They just didn't play clean.
Yeah.
Here's what I think happened. They're the bully on the schoolyard. They come out, they throw a haymaker, it hurts, and the other boxer never really recovers from it. So it's just a matter of time before they finally fall down, and then the ref counts to 10, and that's the knockout. And so what you need is the bob and weave guy who is going up to go. It's almost like George Foreman, Muhammad Ali, like, right, the Rumble in the Jungle, where Ali's entire game plan was, are you as in good shape as I am? Can you go 12? I'll jab every so often, but I'm going to keep it close. And let's see if you can go the distance. And then let's get to the 12th round and the final 30 seconds, and I'll make my move. And I think Texas did a very good job of that with the way they played. They kept Ohio State from making haymakers. Their first touchdown was a 3-yard run from Quinshon Judkins. They threw one haymaker, and it was at halftime, which was tough for Texas. I thought they played a pretty good half. And so for Travion Henderson to just go, well, I'm just going to go 75 yards of the screenplay, that's the haymaker. Okay, Texas got back off the mat, and they fought back, and they fought back, and they fought back. And it's 14-14. They make Ohio State drive again. It's 21-14, and they're on the goal line. And then Ohio State threw another haymaker. And that's it. That's just what it was. And so my whole point with this game was Texas did all that for a drop of blood. That's essentially what happened here. And so, okay, that's a lot. That took a lot more out of Texas than it did out of Ohio State, clearly. 28-4. You still win by 14 points because you threw two haymakers at the end of each half. That's what essentially won the game here. Notre Dame's not going to throw haymakers like Ohio State. Nobody can throw haymakers like Ohio State. So now you're asking Notre Dame, hey, can you do what Texas did, but also, like, not get hit with a haymaker? Texas couldn't do it. Oregon couldn't do it. Tennessee couldn't do it. And you're talking about they don't really do it. You have to throw your own haymaker. And Texas didn't throw their own haymaker. Oregon and Tennessee didn't throw their own haymaker. So unless you think Notre Dame's going to throw haymakers, I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout, but I'm saying Ohio State's eventually going to land a haymaker. And I don't know if Notre Dame's going to be able to get back up off the mat once that happens.
So I think two things can be true. I think Jeremiah Love might be the best skill player that Ohio State plays in the last 2 rounds. Oregon's got some really good skill players. So Notre Dame has a running back that can beat you, right? Jeremiah Love, I know he's banged up right now. I just watched him hurdle a man who was like 6'2" or something. He looked okay to me. That touchdown run looked okay to me. Jeremiah Love is very, very good. And Jadarian Price, their backup running back, which is, it's kind of like a Ohio State situation where they're both just really good and they'd both be starters at pretty much every other school in the country. I don't know if they have that other haymaker. Who would you rather have, Quinn Ewers or Riley Leonard? Like, it's probably close, but I lean Quinn. Certainly the receivers from Texas, you're taking them over Notre Dame's. The offensive line, a little dicey, but the health for Notre Dame right now, probably Texas. I think you're right. I think the haymakers that Notre Dame can throw Ohio State are just, they're not as forceful. They're not as powerful as what Texas can give. And Texas threw some haymakers tonight, and they lost by 14 points.
They didn't land.
Yeah.
They didn't land. They had an interception, and they didn't do anything with it. You have to knock them down. And I don't think Texas knocked them down. They just stayed in it for 11 rounds until Ohio State finally said, come here, get in this corner, I'm going to beat you up. And that's what happened. Ohio State's just the best team in the country right now throwing and haymakers. Marcus Freeman, I'm sure, will look at the game plan Texas had and have some things up his sleeve. But that's what this boils down to. If you cannot land haymakers that knocks the other boxer down, then you can't beat the other boxer, because that boxer is going to knock you down a couple of times. We're going to continue to talk about this on Buckeye Talk, and get the text 614-350-3315. Steven, Stefan, Andrew, we are headed to Atlanta, Ohio State, Notre Dame. It's an all above the Mason-Dixie line national championship game, below the Mason-Dixie line. See you in 10 days.